Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. At long last, I'm going to do part 3 of my citrus tour. Been out of town for a couple weeks, so just got back and I thought I'd take advantage of a beautiful day and do part 3. Now this is at our rental house here in Greene County, and so this area was one of the first I planted after moving back to Greene County from the coast. And so it's kind of a mix. I started planting a lot of stuff here, and then later on, I've started focusing on things that could benefit from passive protection, but didn't really require active protection, but were maybe a little more tender than out in the great wide open at the orchard. So what we're looking at here is Karaji mandarin that I planted in 2018. And I've grown Karaji in several different places over the years, and it always seems to make a very large tree. This has done great. It's never been protected here, and it has been damaged. You can certainly look back on my Facebook page if you want to and see where it took some heavy damage in 2022, Christmas of 22. But as you can see, it has always recovered. It's probably a little bigger than it should be right here. Last year it set an abundance of fruit. This year it does have a fair number. Not as many as it normally does, but as you can see, here's quite a bit of fruit, and you know, it always makes a nice crop. See some white flies flying around, so I'll have to get after them. And we'll move, before I move on there, I'll move back a little bit. This is a Sunquat, and it's obviously a kumquat hybrid, probably with Meyer lemon or something like that, but it's very sweet, and it probably, yeah, I said Meyer lemon, probably a clementine by kumquat. And it was a chance seedling in Texas, and makes a great fruit. You can eat it out of hand. It's very sweet. It's one of my favorites. It's definitely one of my wife's favorites, and you can eat it like an apple, peel and all. It's great. Love it. And I've had it for a couple of years. It tends to set some fruit. I see it's blooming a little bit now. I don't see any fruit on it right now, but it may set a few fruit for later. We'll see. Last year it did, you know, and while I'm talking about it, fruit set has been a lot less this year than last year. Some of that may be due to just being an off year for a lot of varieties, a lot of mandarins, you know, kind of alternate bear, but we had a very dry spring, and I think that also affected things to some degree as well. This is Kishu, also planted in 2018. This is one that if I planted now, I probably would plant it in a more protected place or where I could protect it, but it has survived. It did come through 22, and it was killed back almost to the bud union in 22, but it has since recovered very nicely, and last year had a huge crop. I don't think it set if it set a fruit, I'll be surprised, but I don't think it set a single fruit this year. So it's concentrated a lot on growing, and it looks fantastic. So happy with that. And we'll move over here, starting to get dry again, as you can see. And I've got several things planted, just kind of mixed plantings. I guess you could call what I do edible landscaping. Over here, I don't do a lot of just planting things in rows. I could kind of mix them in. So here is Carolina lime, and Carolina lime is another one that it may have set a few fruit, but it didn't set much of anything this year, which I'm kind of thankful for. It really tended to set a lot more fruit than it did grow, and you can see it's definitely focused a little bit more on growth. And that, as you can see, that curling leaf, it's definitely a response to bright sunlight, but not necessarily drought, although it's definitely drier than it should be, or it could be. But I've noticed that the leaves in some shade or a tree in shade doesn't tend to do that. So I think it's just kind of a natural response to bright sunlight. And I'll water it later today, and I definitely need to treat. I see some more white flies, so I'll need to get after those. This is trifoliate satsuma. So it's not Prague. This is a satsuma by trifoliate, and yeah, I tell I've been out of town, definitely. So That's next on my list. And this is truly trifoliate by Satsuma hybrid. Has awful fruit, I'll just say that. Behind this Grevillea, pardon the noise, is Prague, and for the life of me, I can't seem to get this thing to set more than just a handful of fruit ever. It bloomed like crazy. It's bloomed twice this year, and so far nothing. If anybody has some secrets, I sure would like to hear them, but the tree is growing well. It's probably 8 feet tall, maybe. Yeah, probably 8 feet tall, maybe a little taller than that. It just does not seem to bear for me, not yet anyway. So we'll continue around. This is Citrus ichangensis, or it's supposed to be Ichang pepita. It's a seedling, so it could be a hybrid, it could be a species. I just don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Very slow growing, and so far has not set any fruit. This is my largest US 942. It is a seedling. I'll get over here with the light behind me. And it set a handful of fruit last year, and it's definitely set more this year. You can see the fruit out there. So happy about that. I like 942. One of my favorite little citruses, and this one looks really good. We'll come around. This is Morton citrange. Morton bloomed this year, but again, the very dry spring. I don't know, it may have set a handful of fruit in there somewhere, but if it did, I haven't been able to find any. So we'll see later when they start coloring up. Maybe there'll be a fruit or two in there. This is a seedling from a large tree that actually I gave to Joe Levert in Augusta, and he gave me a seedling back. So thanks to Joe. And the original tree actually came from Hayes Jackson in Anniston, Alabama. I grew the original tree from a cutting and gave it to Joe, so kind of coming full circle, I guess. This is Sinton citrangequat, another one of my favorites. This is a grafted tree, and I really like Sinton because it's such a great ornamental, and the fruit color up early in the season. They never really sweeten up. They're just kind of lime-like, but I don't mind them. I think they're pretty good, and it's just a fantastic ornamental. I think it should be much more widely planted as an ornamental than it is. And this one's about 5 feet tall. It is a grafted tree, so it's done great. I can't complain about it at all. So we'll head around here. This is a seedling Thomasville citrangequat. I believe I grew this one from the original tree in Savannah. Certainly derives from there if it's not first generation and second generation. And it is a seedling. And you know, I saw a video just the other day from the Mulberries talking about how precocious Thomasville can be, especially when it's grafted. And I've really never been happy with any grafted Thomasville for that reason. They just want to bloom and bloom and bloom and fruit, and not put out a lot of vegetative growth. So the ones that I have that have done the best, and I've grown many of them over the years, are the seedlings. And I mean, people get hybrids, and I'm sure they do, but every Thomasville I've ever grown has been true. They do vary somewhat, a little bit maybe in fruit size and maybe a little bit in fruit quality, but they're all recognizably Thomasville. The one great thing about Thomasville is as soon as it rains, it will rebloom. But a drawback of Thomasville is that it does ripen pretty late as far as fully ripened. Now, some of these you'll be able to use, the earliest ones, I'll be able to use in about a month as a kind of a lime, and they make a good lime substitute. But if you want to use, sweeten up and be edible out of hand, you will have to wait till around the first week of December, at least. And I like to make marmalade out of the fruits, and of course I want the fruits to be orange. So it is late, and if you get a hard freeze early in the season, it will ruin the crop. But you know, that's life, right? Nothing's perfect. And we will continue around. I wish I knew how many trees I have exactly. I don't. So let me turn off my little electric fence here so I don't get zapped. But this is, in front here is a grafted Troyer Citrange by Rangpur lime. And Troyer by Rangpur is, it hasn't fruited for me yet. It has bloomed a few times, but hasn't set any fruit, hasn't kept any fruit, which is fine. It's still growing, it's still very small. But I grafted it a little high, as you can see, about 2.5 feet high. And it's been through 1 or 2 winters. I want to say maybe one that I planted since I planted out. I believe that's right. So I'm hoping for it. It's supposed to make like a little Mineola type fruit. I don't think it's not sweet like Mineola, but Mineola shaped anyway. And over here is a Changsha. This is one I got as a seedling from a friend who had it labeled Yuzu hybrid. So I was kind of excited to thinking that it was something really unusual, but once it fruited, it was pretty clear that it's a Changsha, and it has set a good number of fruit this year. And like everything else, has got a ton of whiteflies. So boy, do I need to get busy on that one. Here I've got a seedling Yuzu, which I think I set that out 1 or 2 years ago, and it's doing great. Looking forward to seeing it fruit. I like Yuzu. And over here is an unusual Sansit Chang I got from Woodlanders. It's obviously a seedling. And if you've read about Sansit Changs, it was one of the ones that Dr. Brown in Houston did, Dr. John Brown, many years ago, and he produced a number of them, all different. And this one has trifoliate leaves. It looks a lot to me like a Morton Citrange. Not quite, but you can see here some trifoliate, some bifoliate, mainly trifoliate leaves. And this one is supposed to have a fruit that is more orange-like. I have another seedling that I got from someone who got it directly from Dr. Brown that has a fruit more like a grapefruit. So they're all different, they're all variable, and we'll see what this one does. Maybe it'll bloom next year. I hope so. So we'll see if it does. Got some blueberries here. We'll move over here. Asian persimmons. This is another one that if I were going to plant it now, I'd put it in a more protected spot or where I could actively protect it. This is Sugar Bell. It was grafted by a friend of mine and given to me. You can see we dropped to about 16 this past winter, and that's definitely below the threshold for Sugar Bell for getting cold damage. I think about 19 or 20 is where it's going to start seeing some damage. And it's recovering, but it's definitely marginal without any protection here. Next to it is a honey Changsha that I grew from a seed from a friend of mine in Atlanta. So it's finally picking up some steam and getting going. So I'm thankful for that. And this is I almost gave up on this one. I'm glad I didn't. This is a Ventura La Mandarin. And last year it got such a horrible case of spider mites that I thought it was dead. I really did. I thought it almost completely defoliated, and it just looked terrible all winter long. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll just rip it out. But I didn't, and I'm thankful that I didn't, because it's really responded this year. So much so that it actually set a couple of fruit, which really surprised me because it is a seedling, and I didn't expect it to set. I didn't expect it to bloom anytime soon, but it did bloom. And who knows, that may have been a response to stress. It's actually got 3 or 4 on there. That's good. So I'm taking care of that one a little better now, and hopefully we'll see some more growth on it. And we'll finish up right here with, this is Marumi kumquat, and you can see that it is blooming. It didn't bloom in the spring, but it is blooming now, and it should ripen fruit before the winter. So if it sets any, And again, we could really use the rain. I'm going to water everything and spray. I won't spray this one today because of that right there, that little guy and his friends who are busy pollinating. But I will spray the white flies on the others where they're not blooming. I may have forgotten a few things. If I did, I'll catch them later, but that's about everything. I think I've got about 25 or so in the ground, and while I'm walking around, we'll take a trip to the greenhouse, and this is what I'm planning for planting out next year, wherever I have room and wherever that can be. So you can see I've got a Sunset Chang, the grapefruit kind, let's see, what is that? Oh, Clemuse 2-2, Sanford Curaphora from Europe, a grafted I Chang Lemon, Mick, let's see, some early St. Anne Satsuma, and up here a couple that I did, Uchukitsu, and another Changsha from one of mine, and then another one I got from Gaylord Ventura, Yuzukichi, and boy, that thing's been slow. So that's on for the future, not today, sometime probably next year, and we'll see how they do. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope everybody has a fantastic day and happy gardening.